What does it take to keep going when you're working full time, caregiving full time, and fighting for support that always feels just out of reach? Does working from home make it easier or does it make it more difficult? Today's guest lives this day in and day out, and I think you'll see from her story the answer is a little bit of both. Welcome to the in-between years, where life doesn't come with a manual, but we've got the mic, and we're here to talk about aging parents, long-term care, and the conversations that no one wants to have. I'm your host, Holly Westervelt, and I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Carolyn Vader is the underwriting and new business manager for Kraus Agency. She has over 20 years experience in the insurance industry, with most of that focused on the senior market. She saw her father suffer through dementia and is now the full-time caregiver for her mother, Charlotte. Thank you, Carolyn, for joining us today and for sharing your story with us. So I know you have a really long story to share, but first, let's talk about Charlotte. Tell us a little bit about your mom.
Charlotte is 81. She is widowed. As you mentioned, my dad suffered from dementia and has passed. So she's been widowed since 2007. Charlotte raised 4 children. She was a homemaker until around 36, 37-ish. It wasn't until my brother was almost in high school that she worked outside the home. So Charlotte was very limited to, what her job skills were. But she worked outside the home and she raised 4 children. And when my father passed in '07, we've been together ever since.
So when your dad passed, your mom moved in with you then?
Yes, it was,
Okay.
decided amongst all of my siblings that, I would be the best to move in with her at the time. So yes, I moved into my parents' home that they owned at the time of his passing.
Okay.
It was in New Jersey. I now reside in Florida.
Okay. So, wow, you've had to move mom and everything else. So at the time that you first moved back in with your mom, did she need help at that point or were you just roommates at that point?
I would say a little bit of both. Roommates to the extent that she needed some companionship. And for myself as well, I was going through a divorce at the time. And financially, she needed financial help. So It was a little bit of both.
Okay. And so your journey from there to where you are today has taken some time. It wasn't a sudden event, that caused her to move in with you or to need more, physical like help with activities of daily living. That's been a little bit more of a journey to get there.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
This journey didn't start in '07 when my father passed. She was still working full time and under 65 at the time. My father was 14 years older than her.
Okay.
So it was quite the difference in age, if
Yeah.
you will. It wasn't until we moved to Florida in 2010 that she gave up her driver's license, she gave up her job, and she was more reliant upon me at that time in 2010, but still fully functionable, walking, no assisted devices or anything like that. She just chose to stop working and, I guess, collect my father and her Social Security, what little bit that is. So, our journey started in 2010 with just a little bit of reliance here and there to where we are now.
And where are you now, with the care that you provide on a daily basis?
Where we are now, she's 81. She is unsteady on her feet. So when she's on her feet, there's a little bit of transferring on her end. But of course, I have to be there to monitor her shift because she's like dragging her feet. It's not like she can just maneuver herself. So there's that. And we do have wheelchair. We're starting the physical therapy with the wheelchair around the house. I had to move recently to a bigger home. So I have more space for her to get around in the wheelchair in. There's just so much to think of it all at one shot. And it is quite expensive being a full-time caregiver.
Yeah,
But
I can only imagine, the cost that the caregiver incurs in the middle of that. Not to mention, with her being unsteady on her feet, the physical toll that must take on you.
And I joke, I really do, because, my career trade is underwriting a new business, right? So anytime something happens to me, I'm like, oh, stability period. So yeah, with my mom, I found myself almost having to put myself in physical therapy because she fell and I'm the only one there. So I'm lifting her. Yeah, she's a small 138 now, but it was dead weight. And I didn't lift her. I tweaked my back a little bit, you know. So as a caretaker, it takes a toll on you physically as well. So I just hope that my long-term care shot isn't out the window.
I mean, it's scary to think. I mean, and what do? You know, it's not like you're trying to hurt yourself, but at the same time, you know, you've got to help her up. You've got to be the one. And yeah, 138 pounds of dead weight is no easy feat for anybody. So this, we kind of understand maybe a little bit about where you are now and what you have to go through, you know, in giving her care. So I also happen to know you work from home full time and your mom's there with you full time. And that must be an interesting balance, you know, when she needs help getting up or transferring or other things. And yet you're working. So how does that work?
I would like to say it just does because we're so well organized, but like every day is on the fly.
Yeah.
And I will mention the word organized. Like I'm a need to know, have to know what's our next step. There can't be any change. Well, get used to change every single day because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what that day is going to entail. There are times I'm on a Zoom call and I hear her call and I know the sounds of her calls now. Like I know when the panic call and I know just I need my phone. It's across the room. So like I kind of gauge it. And I hate to sound like that, but we wing it a lot because I have to work. I have meetings and I have to keep everything over our heads.
There's nothing easy about that. I mean, it's trying to do really two jobs at the same time. And, you know, I think it's good that you have flexibility and can, but at the same time, it's still really hard to try to balance that and try to work that through. It made me think when you were describing, you know, you've learned how she's, you know, asking for help from you. It reminded me of a baby's cry. You know, when we have little ones, we learn, oh, that's their hungry cry, or oh, that's their, they need changed, or no, they're just bored and, you know, trying to not sleep or whatever, you know. And so it's interesting that's somewhat the same, or that you've evolved and learned somewhat similar with that. So let's talk about the help you have. You know, you're carrying like the vast majority of the care for her. And I know you said you have siblings and things like that, but, you know, do you get any help? Do you get any breaks?
The only breaks that I do get is when I have to travel for work. Then I will call my sister that lives in New Jersey, not my two siblings here in Florida. I call my sister that lives in New Jersey, and between her and I, we'll go halfers on, you know, a round trip ticket for her to come out and sit with my mom the days I have to travel. So even when she comes to visit, I don't get to visit with her. There are no more visits for my sister and I. She's coming here to take care of mom, and it's quite costly for her as well. She has to take the time off from work in New Jersey.
Sure.
You know, to accommodate my hours. And then, you know, additionally to that, I do have a husband who helps me tremendously. Sure. I try to schedule things on Mondays because I know he's off when it comes to doctors or, you know, anything like that, because I definitely need help with that.
Yeah.
It's not an easy task to say, okay, mom, get in the car, because it's me putting her in the car. So that's the type of help that I have. My one sister that's here in Florida, she has her own health issues. And prior to that, she had her own family and she didn't have time. I don't know any other way to say that. My brother, his whole thing is, I'm sorry, but I can't watch mom like that. Okay.
And it's really sad, but I think what you're saying is really common among families too. You know, I think a lot of people experience the same things that you're experiencing, in that, you know, for whatever their reasons, there's siblings that just don't help. And, you know, other times there's siblings that will help, but they're just not, you know, they don't live there. It's not convenient. So they just can't, even though they're willing to help, can't be there all the time. And so that really does, unfortunately, quite often put all the burden onto the primary caregiver. I think it's also easy sometimes when you're not right there every day to not understand just how hard that is.
Well, and it's, you know, to just comment off that, my sister came the couple of times in the very beginning when my mom was full time. Mm-hmm. She came the first 2 times. And even in the very beginning, when it wasn't so much as it is now, she went to my siblings behind my back. and was like, you guys really need to get it together because Carolyn needs a lot of help. Mom's a handful. And their replies were, one was, I don't have the time. And the other was, I can't help mom when she's like that.
That's tough.
Okay.
That's tough. Wow.
I don't care to either, but here we are.
I mean, it's not, I know getting the time with your parent and doing that, there is honor and privilege in being able to do that. But at the same time, you didn't ask for this. It's not like when we were talking earlier about having a baby, that's something we choose and we look forward to. And, I don't think most of us are sitting out there saying, oh, I can't wait till I can take care of mom. You know?
Well, not.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
have my 10-year-old granddaughter that's already saying, I will move in with you. I will help you
Yeah.
when
You
you're
know,
like Nana. I said, and I pray you don't.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of us that go through this really hope our kids or our grandchildren don't have to. I saw I think it was on social media today, somebody was talking about caregiving and they said, I didn't ask for having to carry around this 145-pound baby with a 60-year-old back. I thought that's actually pretty accurate, pretty accurate.
Almost spot on for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about, I mean, like to shift just a little bit here, like there's supposed to be things out there that help people like you. So things like, Medicaid, that like the home and community-based services. I know we all heard a lot about that as the government was debating changes to Medicaid and stuff like that. But really those type things, I think to anybody, that isn't so connected to this world would assume that those are there to help people in your situation. That's what it says. So have you looked into that? And if so, like, how did that go?
I looked into it twice. So the first time around, because mom wasn't as full time, and it was after the first surgery and it was just recuperating from the surgery. So she had physical therapy and OT coming as the result of her surgery. So Medicare paid for that. But then I had to go through an application process because she did need some home care. She required it. And at the time, a year ago, or I should say 10 months ago, she didn't require the care that she needs today. So it was labeled as, well, her daughter works full time and she works full time from home remote. She doesn't need any care.
What?
She doesn't need any help. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Pause there for a second. You work from home full time, and because you're at home, your mom doesn't need any additional help because you're there,
She has a
like
full time caregiver.
even though you have a full-time job.
Correct.
Wow. Thanks, government. That's really helpful. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It is. It's frustrating to no end, but lucky, I say luckily, right? Luckily for me, not because I'm in this industry, but we had a social worker on my mom's case that took a liking. There's no other ways to say that. And she saw the days in, the days out. She sees when she was visiting with my mom, she saw what my job entailed. I mean, she's ducking behind team calls, saying, I'm sorry. So when she came out the second time and saw that my mom was in such need of care, like it was 10 months ago, she needed more hands-on. She said, have you called Aging in Place? And I said, well, we did. And because I'm here, she doesn't need care. She goes, but things have changed. The woman called herself and she had it on speaker by accident. And I heard the representative say, we've already interviewed her daughter. She works from home. Charlotte does not need care. We can't help her. And that's when I came from across the room, excuse you? And then I had the second interview. So we're at that process now where I actually received the application in the mail, and we'll see. I mean, it could be Meals on Wheels, but we'll see what she's qualified for. But because I am here and I work from home, it's like she doesn't qualify for care.
Horrible. That's the location of your work should have no bearing. It should have no bearing. Just because you're there doesn't mean you're not working. And I know your employer, I know a lot of employers are flexible and understanding, and that's wonderful that they are, but that doesn't make it fair or right to you to have to do those things at the same time. It's just mind blowing. The state would expect you to have to do that. So you have the application now. That's good. That's a win. But what happens from there? I mean, once you fill that out, yes, you mentioned maybe you get Meals on Wheels. I mean, like you fill that out and they tell you what kind of services you qualify for, or how does that work?
Yeah, you complete it, you fax it over to them, and then it goes into that underwriting qualification.
Oh,
And where she's ranked versus what the type of care that she needs, that determines what services are available for her at this time. And again, I joke about Meals on Wheels, but it could be just that. She could get delivered meals. I mean, because we went from, the interview goes from, the time you wake up until the time the person needing care goes to bed. So what that daily contact is. So, and I did share, that's why I say Meals for Wheels. I did share that I physically have to make it. I will have to cut it up. The only thing she does is feed herself. Then I go take the plate. I have to put and wash everything up. I'm everything.
yeah.
I'm her housekeeper, cook, shopper, everything.
So, yeah, and we joke about Meals on Wheels, but even that would be a tremendous help. It's one thing that you don't have to do, which I think in your position, anything, give me any kind of relief would be welcome. Although, I think the rest of us on the outside that, we pay our tax dollars and we expect people like you to have more help and more support. I knew a little bit about your situation as we had prepped for this, and I did some research. The waiting lists for these kind of services are astronomical. I learned in that research that there is a waiting list for home and community-based services nationwide of about 700,000 people that are in your situation that are waiting on waiting lists across 41 states. 700,000. And they all need the help. I have no doubt they all need the help. And that's just tremendously sad to me. But the other thing I learned was that in that process, Medicaid, when paying for care of someone in a nursing home type facility, that's an entitlement. And so, once they qualify and have the bed placement and things, that will be paid. But these home and community-based services, it's optional for states to offer them. And then there's caps and limits and all kinds of things. It varies by state and it gets really limited. And that's really unfortunate because, it's a better outcome many times for your loved one. It's probably less expensive for the state to pay some help for you. Even just help while you're working, it's probably more cost efficient for them to do that than to pay for her to be in a facility, which is really messed up in my opinion. Yeah.
You would think they would help the homebound client. Yes. So they're not, I don't want to say clogging up the beds or, taking a bed where there could be someone at home with a little bit of assistance that could do that job.
Yeah. 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 It just seems so backwards, but I know a lot of things in our world and with our government and everything else can get that way. With all the best intentions, it gets to be that way. And this one, it's tough. It's a tough one. So backing up just a little bit, are there any conversations that you wish you would have had or any maybe pushback that you wish you would have given your siblings prior to your mom needing care? Any conversations, things that you would have done differently there?
Differently? I mean, because it's hindsight is 2020, but
It is.
if I knew in advance just how much, the person that can't see mom like that, okay, but are you able to help financially?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much can you help monthly? I mean, $100 a month. Okay, we'll make it work.
Right.
We'll make it work. Those types of things. You can't bathe her or you can't watch her, but you can come visit her a lot more. 20 minutes a week will do wonders for her psyche and, her emotions, with that as well. Like I have these 4 children and I only see my one daughter.
Yeah. And a parent wants the visits from their kids, even the short ones, even the, just come and play a game of cards or whatever, Yeah. Yeah. And that would be good. It's good advice for people, that might be facing that situation to have those conversations. Okay, maybe you can't do everything, but what, can you do some financial? Can you at least come visit? Even if I'm here and you're not having to care for her, just come say hi. It's good advice. So, speaking of advice, I know you've worked in this industry for a long time, in the insurance industry, focusing on senior type products, long-term care insurance, those type things. So, tell me, from your perspective as a professional, what kind of changes have you seen in the industry? Positive changes, negative changes, anything that you think is going to impact families that are on this journey?
Well, funny you should say that because I'm underwriting and new business, right?
Yep.
So it's especially exciting for me to see the industry grow. And grow, I mean, there's more options out there. There's a hybrid with a long-term care rider. There's annuities you can buy to fund your long-term care. There's short-term care for those uninsurable for the traditional long-term cares. At least it's a year's worth of coverage.
Right.
Now, the downside to that is it's not available in all the states. In a state like Florida, that it's not available, it would help me tremendously. That year's worth of coverage for my mother, that could stretch to 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
My mother's care and me being home.
Oh, that could be huge, but not available in Florida.
Not
And a
available
few
in
other
all
states.
states. Yeah, there's a handful of states that short-term care is still not approved in yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see the industry growing and trying to put their arms, if you will, around the senior market. But getting all of those products approved in every state would really go a long way with those states that don't have it.
For sure. So we need to talk to, if you have a relationship with your congresspeople on the state level, that would be a really good thing to talk to them about if you're in one of those states that doesn't have options for short-term care insurance. So that's a call to action for anyone out there listening for sure, because it can make a tremendous difference in somebody's journey. So, Carolyn, we're starting to run up on time a little bit here, and I'm going to ask you to wrap up maybe with one more question. What is the one thing that you've learned that nobody tells you when you start this journey?
Believe it or not, how very emotional it is. And if you're already an emotional person, or you were already caregiving in other capacities, maybe it's not your mother or father, it could be grandchildren. You don't know the emotional drain it is because you are watching and you know the end result.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, how can someone tell you that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, even the coldest of person, it's going to hit at your heart.
Yeah.
It will touch you because that's your mom, that's your dad, that's your grandmother or your grandfather.
Truer words have never been spoken. So, Carolyn, I want to thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your story and Charlotte's story and the journey that you've been on and all the wonderful nuggets of advice that you've passed on that maybe other people can learn from and help them ease into their journey, even with nothing else, just knowing that there's others in their same situation fighting those same battles. Because I think sometimes it's helpful to know that you're not alone. Caregiving's lonely too. And so I think it's really helpful to understand that we're not alone in that. So I just really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. And I ask you all to look for the next episode of the In Between Years coming next month. Thank you.